Hello and welcome to Shauna Stitches, episode number 45. Today is Sunday, December the 29th, 2019. Thank you so much for coming to join me, both returning and new viewers. I appreciate you guys being here more than you know. Today is kind of a fun episode. I'm going to have a 2019 recap to talk about the projects I finished this year. And in the meantime, I have some finished objects. So let's talk about those before we do a complete recap. The first one has been on the needles for a long time, if I remember right, since 2017. This is I'm going to say it wrong, Lamellae. I'm not French. I don't know French. It's translated to the squishy shawl. And it's humongous. I have my laptop and phone on my lap because I have some notes on that. So set that down and I'm going to stand up a little bit and show you here. So yeah, you can see I'm almost 6 foot tall and it covers all of my torso plus some. And it is wider than my wingspan as well. This is a pattern by Mina Philipp, the knitting expat. If you don't know who she is, maybe you've been living under a rock, I don't know. Anyway, it's big, it's squishy, just like the name implies. It's brioche. It is a perfect starter project for learning brioche if that's something you want to do. And I absolutely love it. I, off the top of my head, can't remember how many repeats I did, but I remember it was more than 30. The pattern is very good at letting you kind of stop where you want. This is the back side. So for this shawl, I used approximately 1.5 skeins each of 2 different chroma fingering by Knit Picks yarns. It's a singles yarn. And I ordered this yarn when I was a very new knitter. I don't love singles, but I don't hate them either. And I think they're perfect for a shawl like this. They're super squishy, super soft, and just really nice. It can be a bit splitty, so if that's something that bothers you, I would not suggest it. And I'm not even sure that they're still making this yarn. They discontinued a bunch of the chroma lines. So anywho, the color yarn is the color Pegasus, and the white is just the natural undyed white. Not much else I can say about this. Once it got quite long, it was a lot of stitches, and it took a long time to finish a row. For those of you who don't know, in brioche knitting, you knit each row twice, and then before you flip it around to the other side. So they got long, but I'm really happy that I kept going to make it bigger. That is finished object number 1. I have a second finished object, which you guys have already seen, but now it is finally blocked. And that is my Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. This is the Starflake. So again, I have to stand up to be able to show you, but it is quite big. There it is in all its glory. It's absolutely beautiful. I haven't really figured out a good way to wear this one yet. It's, you see, it covers my whole torso. It's huge. It's really more of a blanket. It's just ginormous. But I did do something different here than everybody else. I made an extra repeat here, which I just winged because the pattern did not tell me how to do that. And it's not perfect, but I like it. And as with all Stephen West shawls, they're pretty big anyway. My main reason for making it bigger was that I really wanted to use up my yarn. Yeah, see, I think this one looks better like this. It's really, I think, maybe meant to be worn this way because you can see at the top of the star right here, the middle, it really just fits around your neck just perfect. So there's what it looks like. when I have it on like that. It definitely doesn't go with my shirt today, so I'll take it off soon. So the yarn for this was specially dyed just for me by Shauna Knits, who has the Bean and Bam hand-dyed yarn. And she did that as a wedding gift for me, which was beyond nice. The shawl itself has really just so many different kinds of stitches. Obviously you've got garter, you've got stockinette, you have brioche, and you have some lace. So a little bit of everything for everyone, which I really like that because you tend not to get as bored, or at least as fast. I think by the time I was done though, I had about 700 stitches on the needles because like I said, I made it bigger, so that was a lot, but I was really motivated to finish it. So that's all my recent, oh no, I have one more. I have a cute little one. Check these out. These are newborn size Rose City rollers that I just made with some leftovers. I was making a stocking ornament for a friend that has a knit shop here in Astoria, Oregon, Candy Skein. She does a thing every year where if you make an ornament, then you get to pick an ornament at the end of the season. And these were the colors that I had, both this teal and a sparkly white with speckles. And I wasn't quite done. I still wanted to knit something with it and didn't want to get up. I don't know, I was feeling lazy or something. And so I used the exact same needles, exact same yarn, and made these. They don't have an intended recipient, but I just think they're so cute. And this was such a fast knit. I can't even tell you what yarns they are anymore because they're just scraps. All right, so let's talk about some works in progress. I'm going to show you a very old work in progress. This is my Northeasterly blanket, which is really long and not the easiest thing to show, but just in the last 2 days, I finished this row here. That top sparkly one with the purple and pink is the first day of my sock yarn swappers advent calendar. I don't remember the dyer off the top of my head, but the color was called Frosty. It's in my Instagram page if you really want to know. So I've decided on this blanket because it's really been about a year since I worked on it. And I have 24 5-gram minis to go for my advent calendar. I'm going to aim to do one of these a weekend. So just one 5-gram mini, which means my advent calendar will take me about half a year. And I'm okay with that because it's some progress, because the rate this was going, it wasn't going anywhere. My second work in progress is Christmassy. This was my Christmas Eve cast on, and it's in the heel toe do-si-do pattern. I like a very long leg on my socks, so this is real close to needing the heel to be put in. I start at 50 and each of these marks 10, so I'm up to 80 up here, and I normally do a 90 round leg before starting the heel. And these are knit on 2.25 US 1 millimeter needles, 9-inch circulars, because that's the way I like to knit socks. And the yarn is from my Christmas box of socks that is mostly yarn. If you look at my Vlogmas, I don't remember what day, but I went through, it was one of the last days, maybe 20 or 21. I went through my Christmas box of socks, which is literally my Christmas box of yarn. I think I have 2 finished Christmas pairs. So this was one of the yarns I had in there. It's King Cole Zigzag in the color Christmas. I can't remember where I ordered this from. I ordered it online. It might have been from Webs. I don't recall. Anyway, I love how it's knitting up. I didn't start these, like I said, till Christmas Eve, and they instantly put me in more of a Christmassy mood because I really just wasn't feeling it this year. So I guess that's a hint to myself. Next year, don't wait till Christmas Eve to cast on, like do it right away. Ideally, I would love to have a Christmas sock on the needles at all times this year, because I do have a lot of Christmas yarn and would like to have more than just yarn in my Christmas box of socks. But we'll see. I have a lot of plans for 2020, which I'm going to tell you all about. I'm super excited. But I have one more work in progress to show you guys. If you guys have watched my Vlogmas, this is something you've seen. This has been a bit of a heartache. I have my West Knits Go To Raglan sweater on the needles. This is knit using one strand of Knit Pick Stroll in the Dove Heather gray, something like that, and one strand of my Stress Knits Advent Calendar. I'm currently re-knitting day 4, and I'm doing them in order. And the reason I say re-knitting is because I had this entire thing all the way through the hem bind off, which, by the way, was a 6-inch folded hem, lots of stitches, and I had to rip it all out. Technically it fit, but it was much larger than I wanted it to be. I was really torn when I cast this on. My gauge is on, so it's not a gauge issue, but I was torn between the 38-inch bust and the 41-inch bust. I have about a 35-inch bust with 34 under the armpits. And I was at that moment where I was like, do I keep going with the 38 size or do I go up to a 41? And in my head, I knew a lot of sweaters are oversized. The specifications for the Go To Raglan doesn't tell you how much ease. And I, honestly, I'm a fairly new sweater knitter. So I decided, why not? I mean, my weight fluctuates. Sometimes I gain weight, sometimes I lose weight, and I'd rather have it too big than too small. That was my thought process. So I did the extra work. I kept going to the 41-inch bust size, and I tried it on, you know, when I'd split for the sleeves. You can't really see me, but I tried it on when it was here. And I thought to myself, it seems a little big. But again, in my head, I was like, it's not too small, so that's good. And I just kept going. And I'll insert a photo what it looked like when I was done with the body. Some people said they really liked it. If you're a leggings type person and you want something to cover your butt, it was great. But I think the biggest issue was where the armpit came. The armpit came down to like here. And so that made the sweater much longer, obviously because the yoke was longer. And it just really, it didn't feel like it was working for me. So it was a hard decision, but I did. I ripped it out because I want to love this sweater. I want to live in this sweater. I just want it to be comfy, cozy. I mean, for me, it was kind of a big deal to invest in a large advent calendar. It's the first real advent calendar I've ever bought. I've done the sock yarn swapper ones before, and yes, it is an advent calendar, but it's different dyers, and they're 5 grams, and I feel like the buy-in is much less, if that makes sense. But this was not inexpensive, and I don't know, I just really felt differently about purchasing this, and I wanted to make it count, if that makes sense. It doesn't hurt my feelings as much if the 5 gram minis sit there and wait, because I have a lot of those, but I don't have a lot of 20 gram minis. And so this advent calendar was 24 20 gram minis and then 100 gram skein, which I should have brought in here and I didn't. It's okay. I'll show you when I knit it. But yeah, so this is a special sweater and I just want to really feel cozy in it. So hopefully the 38-inch size will do that. Because if I get to, you know, the sleeve separation and this is too small, I might cry or scream or throw this across the room. I'm not sure. But yeah, so before I get into my 2019 recap, I just want to mention really quickly that along the lines of Stephen West, which I've mentioned twice, 2 different projects, I've decided to undertake something quite large this year. And this year, but I mean 2020. So I'm not going to go super in depth here, but I'm going to do a separate video talking all about this more in depth. So if you're interested at all, then go over to that other video. I'm going to upload them the same day. I am going to do a year-long knit-along for Stephen West patterns, and I'm super excited about that, you guys. I love Stephen West. He's a really just genius designer, and I'm super excited to be knitting his patterns. The reason I decided to do this year-long knit-along is because I have a bunch of his patterns already, and I have a fairly large yarn accumulation, yarn stash. And I feel like his patterns are so forgiving and so versatile to mixing and matching different colors, different textures, speckle, tonal, solids, glitter. I mean, you name it. I feel like it fits in a Stephen West project. So one of my goals is to kind of stash down in 2020, buy less, be more intentional. And I also really want to knit all of the mystery shawls that Stephen West has prior to Texture Time and the one I just showed you, the Starflake, because those are the only two that I've ever knit. I kind of was late on the bandwagon, but then having this sweater, and I think maybe I will have enough Advent yarn left over to do a second Stephen West sweater, which I'm going to pick the Marled Mania, I think. It's the one that's a pullover, not the cardigan version, and not the shawl. So the pullover sweater, it's the marled one, not this one. So I decided that it would be fun to have you guys join me. So like I said, the other video will go into more detail, but if you at all want to knit any Stephen West pattern in 2020, then hop on over to my other video where I will explain more in detail what we're going to be doing. That being said, let me get my laptop out here. I'll apologize now because I'm going to be looking down quite a bit. There's not much I can do to avoid that. So for 2019, I finished 31 projects. They weren't all started in 2019, let me clarify that. But this is just what I finished. It's not just what I worked on, nothing. These are finished objects only. 31 projects. I knit 21,993 yards into finished objects and 4,725 grams. That is amazing. I wish I could compare that to what I did in 2018, but I really didn't start keeping track until 2019 sometime. So I'm going to read these, but I'm going to be inserting photos. So hopefully my timing is okay. And you won't have to see me looking down all the time because you should be looking at the finished object. So the first one I finished this year were my Stitch Surfer socks that I made for Glenn. I'm not going to tell you the date I started them and finished them because I feel like that's a lot, or the yarn. But just know I have my Ravelry page linked where it has all the yarn, how many grams I used, all that stuff, what needle size. I'm pretty meticulous about my Ravelry page, which is under the name Shauna Stitches. So any questions, look there. Any questions that aren't answered, you can ask me questions on Ravelry or on Instagram, on YouTube, right here, anywhere. So anyhow, my second finished object of the year were another pair of socks for Glenn, and that was his Vanilla is the New Black. Then I completed a brush stroke hat for myself, and I love this hat. It's a herringbone stitch, and I just think it's so beautiful. So I liked doing herringbone so much that I made Glenn a herringbone hat as well, the brush stroke hat. The next thing I finished were a pair of Vanilla Latte socks, and I will tell you that this one was kind of a big deal because I started these in January of 2017 and finished them in March of 2019. I have been trying to be better at going back and finishing some older projects especially towards the end of this year. The next thing I finished were some Heather's socks. These were a test knit that I did for Lily of Nordic Stitches. Next up, I did a pair of perfect newborn socks. I made these for Glenn and I's niece. I also made a barley light baby, which is a hat for our niece. And apparently I was on a baby kick because I made the Rainbow Ripple baby blanket. Not so rainbowy, just one color. Of course, you guys know I made all of my bridesmaids' shawls, which I almost forgot. I got my wedding photos back, and the pictures that we took with our shawls are amazing. So I'm going to insert photos of those right now so that you can see them. I'm trying to decide whether or not I will say each raspberry field shawl that I finished. I'm only going to insert the photos once. No, maybe that's not true. I'll insert different photos. So the first one I finished was for my maid of honor, and that's in different purples and grays. Then I finished the mini magpie, which was a test knit. I made that for my niece. Hopefully she's knit worthy. I mean, she's too young to know that yet. She's not even a year yet. Then I made the night shift shawl, which really turned out so much better than I had even hoped. Looking at it, you would never know, but those are all yarns that I bought from Joann Fabrics. Then I made, I have the wrong name in here for it, and I can't remember the name that she actually changed it to. But in my notes, I have it under Mina's hand spun shawl. And this was a pattern that I test knit for her the very first time I ever knit with my hand spun. And I loved it. It was so amazing. If only I had more time to spin, I would definitely make more hand spun items. Then I made a pair of socks for Glenn. These are made from a sock blank that I hand dyed myself using food dyes, and I dyed the sock blank to say our wedding hashtag, and obviously knit that into socks, so it's kind of a special pair. Then I knit a pair of hand spun socks, my first ever hand spun socks, which, to be honest, I haven't worn a lot. I like them, but I haven't worn them a ton. I think because I'm a little worried that I'm gonna wear them out. Then I made my pavement sweater, and this one was along the lines of how I felt about the To Raglan when I finished it. It's just too large. I can't seem to get it through my head that I'm not as big as I once was, because I told you that my bust is a 35. Well, it's been up to like a 39, so I had gained quite a bit of weight, and it's hard to remember that or think that you're not going to do that again. So anyhow, it's too big. I don't really like it, and I didn't care enough to rip it out. So truth be told, I haven't really worn it. And then I started and finished the raspberry field shawl for one of my bridesmaids, the one in the blues and the greens. That was for my bridesmaid named Amanda. I made a baby pumpkin hat for our niece again. And then I made a pair of Perfect socks, the first time I ever used Arnie and Carlos Regia Perfect, and that was pretty fun. It was an experience anyway. They have really long cuffs. The next project I started and finished was the raspberry field shawl for my third and final bridesmaid named Jana. And then I just could not really get myself back into the swing of knitting another one of those raspberry field shawls. I started mine, but it took a long time. So in the meantime, I knit an everyday slouchy beanie for Glenn. I knit, oh gosh, at least 6 washcloths. I was definitely on one of those. I need something super simple and brainless to work on. I knit a pair of heel-toed do-si-do socks for Glenn. I love that pattern. If you'll remember, I just showed you the ones in my Christmas yarn. It's absolutely fabulous. And then I finally did start and finish my own raspberry field shawl, which was using the leftovers from all of my bridesmaids shawls. And so I started it September, and I didn't finish it until November 9th. Our wedding was November 16th, so just a little bit last minute. Then I finished my Starflake shawl, which I just showed you guys. I finished an everyday slouchy beanie for myself. I finished a pair of socks that I started in 2017. They're supposed to be my 4th of July socks, or, July socks, for 2017, and I didn't finish them until November of 2019. But it sure does feel good to clear off those needles and just finish old projects. I finally made myself a thick beanie, which I don't think I showed it on here. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but you're going to see it now. It's my traveling cable hat. And if you guys remember way back when, it's the very first hat, or very first anything I ever made for Glenn when we first started dating. He still wears it, and he loves it. And as you just saw, I finished the Lamellae shawl, and I finished a pair of wedding socks for me. So, yeah, that's it. And those wedding socks for me were also knit out of a sock blank that I dyed myself. So yeah, I don't foresee myself finishing anything else before the end of the year. So that's my 2019 stats. I will definitely be keeping track in 2020. But I have to say, I don't know that I will knit as much or be able to beat those numbers, because those raspberry field shawls had yarn doubled. So, it counts as double yardage. So we'll see. I mean, I don't have to beat it. It's no big deal. And one thing that I really kind of want to do in 2020 is to not stress out about like deadlines or just like mass production. I mean, obviously I'm not a mass production person. I have a day job, which takes up more of my time than I care for it to. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. So yeah, what else? I guess we'll talk about a little bit of life stuff. As I told you, we went on our honeymoon and got back and promptly got sick. If you have been watching my Vlogmas, or if you go back and watch that, you'll see it was kind of like I was stuck in Groundhog Day every day. Like, oh, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And like after 3 weeks, I finally got better. And I would say honestly, it took a month to where I felt like I had energy again. That was really rough. So I'm very glad to be feeling better. I'm just happy to have made it through Christmas, I guess. We don't do a lot for Christmas, but we had a nice family dinner. Glenn's parents came over and my mom came over. And so I got to cook for everyone. And it wasn't as stressful as I kind of thought it would be. Today we did our meal prep just like we do every Sunday. However, it was a little bit different. I didn't do prep dish this week just because we had leftover ham. So I made a large batch of split pea and ham soup. We bought a bread maker, and I have a loaf of bread that is molasses, honey, and oat. So that sounds really good. And we're just gearing up for New Year's Eve. I have to work every day except for New Year's Day. And Glenn's been off for all last week, and he'll be off for this week. So I'm only a little bit jealous, or a lot, But anyway, yeah, if you guys, like I said, if you're interested in my Stephen West year-long knit along, I hope that you'll join me. Even if you just do one project, that's all you have to do. And I probably have something else to say, but I can't think of it. So thank you guys so much again for watching and subscribing, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.